Good evening. The Ranter is back to go into yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. And, well, up to a couple of days ago, the news of the day would be the Republican National Convention and Trump picking J.D. Vance and everything, all the momentum was going over Trump's side, and there's just all this talk, and everyone is wearing the bandage, the fake bandage on the ear, and it's just this wonderful momentum, and then Joe Biden drops out of the race. And then endorses Kamala Harris as vice president to take up the reins and run as to be the next president. And Trump got knocked off of page one. First things first, let's speak about Joe Biden. I admit to it since I've said it multiple times. This is the correct choice. I, and many of others I've spoken with, all agree that it was time for him to step down. It's probably been a long time coming for him to step down. For those who've seen the videos I've done from the 2020 election, I was concerned about him being in decline back then. I thought he was too old for it back then. I don't think it's an ageist thing to say that there has to be an upper cap on an age limit for people in high offices, for presidencies and other offices for that matter. I mean, we've seen a lot of old people that are still clutching to the reins of their positions. But since the responsibility of that position is so paramount, and we can, laughingly turn the blind eye or not pay attention or just assume that someone has good people around them that you will just assume this person is propped up like the figurehead while everyone else is doing the work around him. That's great and all, but in all honesty, you want to have a person that is viable in their physical, mental, emotional stabilities in order to do this job. And this is a type of job, even from the guy outside looking into what it is to be a president, that would be insane amount of pressure, insane amount of responsibility that's to be put upon your time. You got to hit the ground running from day one. There's no light days. I mean, you always have to be by the phone at all times, ready and able to answer the call, whatever it is. And we sometimes laugh upon when we see relatively young guys who become president and how they're like so gray by the end of their term or their two terms, because it takes a lot out of you to have that responsibility always sit upon you. And again, I say, and others have said that it was right for him to be convinced to let go, to not run for a second term. But that said, I'm not dancing in the street over it. It is the right thing to do. That does not necessarily mean that I'm happy about it. There is a movie, I'm trying to remember what the name of the movie was called. It was a movie about stand-up comedy. Sally Fields and Tom Hanks. I think it's like Straight Talk or something along those lines. At the end of the movie, she was going up on stage. There was this big competition with all the comedians of this particular group, this particular club, right? And they were all going to go up stage and compete for whatever the prize was. I forget what the prize was. But in the midst of like the bullpen of where the comedians all are waiting to go up, there is this one old comedian in a classic suit that you would expect an entertainer to be wearing in like the 70s or even the 60s. Just very... The suit itself looked old. It looked frayed. Like this is like his favorite or lucky suit that he wore all his career, and he's an old guy. And the owner of the club said he wasn't going to go on. He's not part of the competition. He's not going on. I'm sorry, but you're done. And that always kind of struck me. That always made me sad when I watched it. And Joe Biden letting go reminds me of that. When you get past the politics and you just think of the human being part of it, when you think of the human being that is Joe Biden, there is something very melancholy about it. Keep in mind, Joe Biden started out as one of the youngest men as a senator. The bare minimum age of starting to be a senator was 30. He was 30 years old. He was one of the youngest men in our history to be in senatorial politics. He ends his career as the oldest president of the United States. Think if you were in those shoes. Think that you had so much you think you still have in you to give, that you know this job, that you have done this job, that there is a list of accomplishments that you have done in this job. This is not like you are, just a figurehead that is like losing your marbles, as far as we know. But you believe that you still have more to do, that you can accomplish this, that you can beat Donald Trump, that you can see out in the next 4 years in a second term as president. But then you hear detractors. And I'm not talking about people like me or other people who do not even know what's going on inside the House, inside the White House, inside his inner circle with him. All we see is what we see. That's it. We don't know shit. But then the people around him start asking the questions, start looking concerned, start trying to, softball the question of maybe you should step aside. The softballs become snowballs and it becomes a little bit harder, and then names start propping up saying that they want him to step aside. Various congressmen, senators, governors, people who are not only small, medium, but large names in the Democratic Party are all gathering en masse to try to convince you to step aside, to step down. And you finally relent, and you step down. I can't imagine how demoralizing it is when you cannot do the job anymore. Not because you're bad at it. Not because you're doing something wrong in it. You're just too old for it. That is a scary notion for anyone to imagine. If you have a career and you've been doing your work for years and years and years and years, and at some point you think you're going to work like any other day, and then you realize you're a little bit slower. Your mental acuity of remembering the facts and figures that it was like easy to do is a little bit slower, and it is noticeable. And it's to the point where time in. Well, it is to the point when your drawing down is noticeable to others and then to yourself, but you're just like, and you're fighting it out of pride, out of maybe self-worth, upon if it's even it's possible or not, if you're still able to do it or not. And perhaps you can't. Perhaps those around you try to convince you that you can't do it anymore, and maybe you finally break down and you agree that you can't do it. just because it's the right thing to do. And it is the right thing to do for him to step aside. And it's good for the country. It's good for his legacy that he does. That he relinquishes power, something that Donald Trump could never, ever, ever do. He couldn't even he couldn't even accept the fact that he lost 2020, and 4 years later he still didn't accept it. But Joe Biden was convinced. Maybe he didn't even need all that much convincing. Maybe it was finally time that he just accepted. And he's no longer going to run. But again, just because it is the right thing to do doesn't mean it's happy time. Think of a parent or grandparent who maybe is not a president of the United States, but perhaps somebody who had a job or had a career, who was a staple, a cornerstone in that particular position, and they were convinced to retire from it. Not because they're bad at their job, not because they did anything wrong. They just were too old. It's such a bitter pill to swallow. And I hope people with compassion would understand that and maybe let's give a little bit of shade, more respect to Joe Biden on his way out. It is actually a courageous thing to say, I understand and I'll step aside. But with that out of the way, now comes the rise of Kamala Harris, who he endorsed, already vice president, and now has a rocket strapped onto her. It is interesting where we are in terms of how our reaction is to this news. Because a lot of people do want to have this open convention, this open melodramatic convention where Joe Biden will release his delegates and then everyone will vote however they will. That might serve to be entertaining, a bit of television on the Democratic National Convention, that you might feel like you're in the moment, like in the classic moments of like the conventions of like the 60s or 70s or maybe earlier, where it was this big quasi ritualistic thing in our going through the motions of politics and having no real clear nominee, so that what if we nominate him or nominate her or nominate him? Maybe the people who are Bernie bros could come back for like somebody who's like, more progressive, and then, dig up a name that was cast aside in 2020 or during the nomination process of this election cycle. Says, why can't we bring them back? That is entertaining. That is a thought-provoking thing. I won't deny that. However, given the state of being right now in our politics concerning who is on the other side of the ticket, I don't feel like we can afford so much disunity anymore. Because that's one of the things that was the byproduct of Joe Biden being, unfortunately, in this level of decline, is that people were coming out and they were having their fights in the Democratic Party between those who were Biden essential loyalists who wanted him so time and again, this is going to be like one of those broken up videos. So it'd be entertaining and all that to have a nice big ruckus convention and to do the vote counts to see where it rises or falls. But we don't have the time. We need to unify against somebody now. And there are, in the past few days since Joe Biden made the announcement, Kamala Harris got the endorsement, and then people were lining up behind her. There was a long list of people that was for Kamala Harris immediately. There were others who were not 100% towards Kamala Harris immediately, including the Obamas and Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi did endorse her afterwards, and so has other people who haven't endorsed her just yet. But the idea of there being an open convention, people want to have that. But again, I don't think this is the proper time for it. If it does go down, it'll be entertaining. I'll watch, whatever. And as I said in previous videos, whoever gets the nomination, back. Go vote. As Steve Shives had said in his own video, for those who are liberal, left-leaning, progressive, Democrat, moderate, whatever is on in this conglomerate of bickering children at times, we win when we show up. They win when we don't show up. And as he said in his video, especially for people who are very disappointed and very frustrated that there isn't as much of a progressive strength in the Democratic Party, well, there's a way of doing that. You vote. You vote your primary. You vote the general. Be it the 2-year thing or the 4-year thing, but the more people that you vote in, the more people will get into these offices. And then it will grow. And then it will be the establishment that shrinks. And then the progressives that are all these young up-and-comers who will start growing into their own and then having more prominence, there will be more of that. And that's because people are voting for them. That's the way to elevate up, right? Now, because of everything is happening and everything is going down now, Kamala Harris actually has begun having developed a short list of people that she would want as her vice president. We're going to go over a bit of the list and give you the names of those that she has decided on. She primarily decided on 4 names, but there are other names that are still floating around in the ethers that could possibly also be suggestions for her or people that she may decide on to be the vice president for her. So, according to the short list from CNN, okay. With the President Joe Biden's support unleashing a flood of endorsements from many prominent Democrats across the country, Kamala Harris has emerged as a favorite to take his place as the party's nominee for president. Harris immediately received the endorsements of many Democratic Party leaders and inherited the Biden campaign's war chest. The campaign formally amended filings with the Federal Elections Commission to rename its principal committee and declare Harris the candidate for president. Now the conversation is fast moving around who will serve as Harris's running mate. With only 28 days until the Democratic National Convention begins in Chicago, where Harris presumably will be officially nominated, the scramble to find the Democrats' vice presidential nominee has begun. North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly are among the Democrats who have been asked to submit information about their finances, family histories, and other personal details. 2 people familiar with the process told CNN's Jeff Zinley they are part of a group that includes about 10 names, nearly all of whom are elected officials. Here are some potential candidates to run alongside Harris. Josh Shapiro. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro was elected in a landslide victory in 2022, defeating the 2020 election-denying far-right state senator, becoming the third Jewish governor elected in a crucial swing state. Shapiro, who was previously Pennsylvania's Attorney General, had been floated by the Democrats as a potential presidential prospect and is also considering a potential running mate to Harris if she is the party's presidential nominee. During a stop in Philadelphia earlier this month, Harris called Shapiro a great partner to the president and me. CNN previously reported that the former President Barack Obama told Shapiro directly that he is among the 2022 generation of Democrats who need to have a voice in the future of the party, according to people familiar with the conversation. Shapiro endorsed Harris on Sunday, calling her a patriot worthy of our support. The assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, has placed the governor in the spotlight. His response to the death of Corey Compatore, the Trump supporter who was killed while shielding his wife and daughter, has especially been lauded. Corey was a girl dad. Corey was a firefighter. Corey went to church every Sunday. Corey loved his community, Shapiro said in a news conference a day after the shooting, and most especially, Corey loved his family. The next one is Roy Cooper. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper leads a state that is crucial battleground in 2024. He was narrowly elected for the first time in 2016 with just over 10,000 votes. He won re-election in 2020 and his term limited out of the running for a third time. He endorsed Harris on Sunday, saying she has what it takes to defeat Donald Trump and lead our country thoughtfully and with integrity. Throughout the time as governor, Cooper has clashed with lawmakers in the state legislature, where Republicans have a supermajority over abortion rights and voting rights, among other things. Cooper previously waved off speculation that he might be on the short list for vice president nominees if Biden stepped aside and Harris became the nominee. I don't want to play with the new favorite political parlor game, because it's too important for America to stop Donald Trump, Cooper told CNN in July. In office, Cooper overcame long-standing opposition in the state's Republican-led legislature and achieved one of his top priorities last year when North Carolina became the 40th state to expand Medicaid to low-income adults. More than 500,000 residents now have coverage through expansion. Biden and Harris heralded the achievement during the joint campaign stop in Raleigh in March, in hopes of winning the state. The first elected to North Carolina House of Representatives in 1986, Cooper has been a force in North Carolina politics for years. He rose to be a Democratic majority leader in the state Senate. He won his first statewide race for North Carolina Attorney General in 2000. He has held the post for 4 terms. Mark Kelly. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly represents a state that Biden won by only 10,457 votes in 2020 and has national name recognition both as a former astronaut and husband of former Representative Gabby Giffords. Now, he has been a reliable supporter of Democratic Party priorities while in office, but has occasionally bucked his party, such as in 2023 when he flatly called the influx of undocumented migrants across the U.S. southern border as a crisis. If Kelly, who swiftly endorsed Harris for president on Sunday, was elected to a higher office, his seat would remain in Democratic hands, as Governor Katie Hobbs would be able to appoint his successor. Andy Beshear. Kentucky's Governor Andy Beshear has been floated as a possible vice president candidate. He had won re-election to a second term last November in a deep red state that Trump carried by 25 points in 2020. He's the top elected Democrat in the bluegrass state and made abortion a major issue in his campaign. Are you at least open to the possibilities of being a running mate to Vice President Harris? Beshear was asked on MSNBC Monday morning. Well, I think if someone calls you on that, what you do is at least listen, he replied. Beshear is one of the nation's most popular governors. He has made headlines for his leadership in a state through the COVID-19 pandemic, deadly tornadoes in 2021, and a catastrophe flooding in 2022. Should Republicans retain control of the House and gain the majority in the Senate, he has experienced navigating clashes with GOP lawmakers. He previously served as state attorney general before winning a narrow gubernatorial victory in 2019, and his time as governor has been marked by disagreements over education, public assistance, and tax policies with the Republican-led state legislature. His father, Steve Beshear, was Kentucky governor for 2 terms and received national attention for lowering the state's uninsured rate from more than 20% to 7.5%, one of the country's largest improvements following the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. All right, Next name is going to be a little difficult. Bear with me. J.B. Pritzker. I tried. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, heir to the Hyatt Hotel riches, was first elected in 2018 and sailed to re-election in 2020 by more than 10 percentage points. Pritzker, who endorsed Harris on Monday morning, has navigated a series of issues that will have dominated the 2024 presidential race, from gun control to reproductive rights. He's led the state as it contends with increased demands for abortion care from women forced to travel from the South to the Midwest in a post-Roe v. Wade era. In 2023, Pritzker signed an extensive ban on firearms and high-capacity magazines. He's also the first in the nation legislative that prohibits book bans in the state. The governor, along with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, also confronted top White House officials in October over a migrant crisis they warned was near to the breaking point. The next name is Pete Buttigieg. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg styled himself as a centrist during his 2020 campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination, leaning in on his time as mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and his service in the Afghanistan War. His presidential run was historic. He was the first openly gay man to launch a competitive campaign for president. He broke barriers by becoming the first gay candidate to earn primary delegates for the major party's presidential nomination, and also became the first Senate-confirmed out LGBTQ cabinet secretary in history. It has been an eventual tenure for Buttigieg leading the transportation department. He was criticized for what was viewed as a slow federal response to the 2023 derailment of East Palestine, Ohio. He has often served as the Biden administration's leading critic of the airline industry following the flight delays and other mishaps. As a potential Harris running mate, Buttigieg would be an effective attack dog. He memorially called the Vice President Mike Pence an evangelical Christian, a cheerleader for a porn star president. A reference to Trump's personal life, and has delighted liberals on social media by sparring with Fox News panelists. He goes on to Fox News a lot, fearlessly and without any trouble. Buttigieg previewed how he'd take on Republican Vice President nominee J.D. Vance on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher. Recently, he said he knew a lot of people like Vance, a Yale Law School graduate at Harvard. I found a lot of people like him who would say whatever they needed to get ahead. 5 years ago, it seemed like being the anti-Trump Republican, so that's what he was. 5 years later, the way that he gets ahead is Trump is the greatest thing since sliced bread, Buttigieg says. Okay, next in line is Gretchen Whitmer. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who won re-election the crucial swing state of 2022 by roughly 10 percentage points, was eyed by Democrats as a top candidate to replace Biden atop the ticket, though she endorsed Harris on Monday morning and appeared to take herself out of the consideration in comments to local reporters. Quote, "I'm not leaving Michigan. I am proud to be the governor of Michigan. I have been consistent. Everyone knows he is always suspicious and asking these questions over and over again," she told local reporters. She told the Detroit News reported, "I'm not going anywhere." Whitmer, the first elected governor in 2018, emerged as a prominent executive during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Her leadership decisions, which include stay-at-home orders, made her the target of a kidnapping plot in 2020. During her time in office, Whitmer has also prioritized efforts to expand affordable access to health care. She has invested billions of dollars in the state's infrastructure and created a department tasked with improving the quality of drinking water in Michigan. She also pitched herself as a staunch defender of reproductive rights. In the weeks following the debate between Biden and Trump, Whitmer continued to voice her support for the president, brushing aside rumors that she might step into the race should he withdraw. Excuse me. Quote, "I understand that some are playing fantasy football and want to just pick a couple of random leaders that they like across the country and design a ticket. That's not how this works," she told CNN's Abby Phillips earlier this month. "We have a president who's gotten the nomination, who earned it." Alright, and the last name on the list is Gavin Newsom. California Governor Gavin Newsom was a subject of the 2024 presidential speculation last year when he notably debated then GOP candidate from Florida, Ron DeSantis, on Fox News and visited several Republican-led states. He moved to endorse Harris on X Sunday evening, writing, quote, "No one is better to prosecute the case against Donald Trump's dark vision and guide our country to a healthier direction than America's Vice President Kamala Harris." Like other Democratic governors who have been floated as potential 2024 picks, Newsom steered his state through COVID-19. He fought off a recall effort in 2021 that stemmed from partisan anger over his pandemic response. Newsom has also received blowback from attending the unmasked birthday dinner of a lobbyist friend at an elite Napa Valley restaurant at the time, when he was urging Californians to stay home. Hypocrite! Yeah, I see I called it out, so don't say I don't. First elected in 2018, Newsom has called for Democrats to go in on the offensive, calling out GOP's stance on abortion restrictions, book bans, and protections for LGBTQ community. Among other things, he was the mayor of San Francisco from 2004 to 2011. If Harris becomes a Democratic nominee, Newsom, a fellow Californian, would run up against the 12th Amendment of the Constitution, which would prohibit Golden State electors, all 54 of them, from voting for a president and vice president who share the same state as themselves. Theoretically, this could be avoided if either Harris or Newsom changed their official residencies, potentially even after the election, but before the Electoral College meets. Okay. So, on to this. I think the first four names is probably the more likely. And what we heard from Gretchen Whitmer is that she's not interested, or unless, apply the pressure, maybe she will be, but at the current time and standing, she prefers to be in Michigan as their governor. I like the idea of a Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg ticket, just because that would just be super, super woke. And that would make the anti-woke people cry and clutch their pearls. It's just terrible. But that aside, all this aside, the last thing we're going to get about in this conversation is the response from the other side towards Kamala Harris, because that is fascinating. I have been told by very smart people who watch politics. They have their own skewed opinions of it, but they're thoughtful in their opinion on it, that Kamala Harris will be weak against Trump. That she does have some glitches in her past, or some chinks in her armor concerning her when she was the DA. That does haunt her at times. Tulsi Gabbard. People have been posting the Tulsi Gabbard response to her in the debate, in their 2020 debate, to which people believe that ended Kamala Harris's run for the presidency. And yeah, she didn't quite answer the questions good enough, and it did reveal the vulnerabilities that she has, that she hopefully has developed, gotten better in the past 4 years over. However, I humbly remind people that tout this debate response back and forth between Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris. What was the results? Kamala Harris became vice president, and Tulsi Gabbard clings to relevancy, being a Fox News pundit. So thanks for the memory lane. But the response to Harris stepping in for Biden is just melodramatic fantasy, just watching from Fox News pundits and people that go on Twitter, X, and just, we need a proof of life of Joe Biden. What if he died? What if this was a coup? What does this all mean? And then, trying to insult her, cackling laughter and this and that, and someone posted a dance video of her dancing with people as if it was a negative thing. Okay. But it gets darker. It gets a little more awful. People are really... First of all, people are pushing that she's just a DEI hiring, diversity hire. Okay, I'm not gonna go into the whole bullshit of that because DEI is now what CRT was. These dog whistle code words. The same thing as woke is. It's a code word now because no one bothers to actually understand what the definition was or is, and you think, well, you're conscientious, compassionate people. Why aren't you for being woke? Oh, no, because we completely made the definition different. We can't tell you what it is, but it's super, super awful, and it's bad, and it's horrible for America, and stoves, and appliances. It's just, God damn. But yeah, it's just too woke. It's just too terrible. She's a DEI hire. At this point, I'm just going to assume that if you are not a white male American on the job, whatever job you are in this country, as of now, of 2024, you are a DEI hire. You didn't do your job. You didn't get your job because your qualifications. No one looked at a resume. You're not because you're super duperly insanely smart and knows the hell that you know what you're doing. No. It's because of your skin pigmentation. Yeah. We need to get a few extra ones of you. And then a few extra ones of them. A few extra ones of them. I mean, we have this DAI argument over a Secret Service agent that was there in Butler. And this argument back and forth about why does this woman gets to be there as opposed to a fictitious man that doesn't exist but would be immensely qualified over her, even though you don't know what the hell her qualifications are to know if she's qualified or not. It's just that, well, so since he has a penis, obviously he's going to be more vastly qualified. It's 2024. I mean, what? Okay. So, yeah, she's a DEI hire. We need some diversity. So, okay, let's forget the fact that we had Barack Obama as president for 2 terms. I thought we were past this point. Not the point of racism. No. I thought we were past the point of us, resetting it. As that somehow the black woman will be who has already been vice president is going to get hired or elected. Well, no, hired. Because, they don't believe in actual people voting because of her skin pigmentation. And therefore she's not qualified. No, not qualified. No. She knows nothing. For all the degrees that she probably has that you don't. No, she knows nothing. But it even gets worse. I mean, we're going to go, the last few minutes of this, we're going to go into 2 different little tirades of mine. The first one is going to be between Donald Trump's whining about it because he's whining about he's trying to file a FEC lawsuit to prevent Kamala Harris from gaining the war chest from Biden in this transfer. Because all those poor delegates that Biden won, and all that money is going to go to Harris. It's not fair. Mike Johnson says that they're going to try to prevent her name from being put on the ballot. Yeah, that's going to go nowhere. So many people are coming out and just and having their stances. Someone's even drawing up articles of impeachment on Kamala Harris today for what? For the border, which bad policy isn't a high crime and misdemeanor, and for hiding Biden's condition. She was hiding it. That must also be a high crime and misdemeanor somehow. I'll blame the Democrats for the impeachment of Trump in this one instance, because if they weren't impeachment happy of Trump for the stuff he was doing, knowing that, besides the calculation of him being guilty of high crimes or misdemeanors or not, knowing for the fact that they wouldn't get it through from the House to the Senate to get that 2/3 vote. I'll blame Democrats for that, because now impeachment has been diluted to anything that doesn't even matter. People are trying to impeach Joe Biden for stuff that he did not do as president. That's not how impeachment works. But he's stepping aside, so you can't even do that. But people are crying over that. Stephen Miller was crying, yelling to Laura Ingraham about the atrocity, the scandal of Harris taking over for Biden. You know, people that was making fun of Biden's age, that saying that he was just not all there, and that you know he needs to step down, he needs to stop running, or so forth. Now are upset that he stopped running. You got what you wanted, and you got Kamala Harris now. And now people are going, no, he needs to resign now. He needs to resign now. If he can't run for office, then he's got to resign now. Lyndon Johnson said famously, "I will not seek, nor will I accept the nomination of my party for another term of office." He stayed as president until the end, and then he stepped aside because of Vietnam, and it was just too much for him. And that is courageous for Lyndon Johnson too, as it is for Joe Biden, to know where your limit is, and you hit that wall, and be it outside influence, inside influence, or inside yourself, you can't go any further. But no one demanded Lyndon Johnson, resign now, resign now. So for those people who wanted Biden to resign now, does that mean you want Kamala Harris to be president now? Because I saw something stray on Twitter where someone said something to the effect, but then they would go, "Oh well, he needs to resign, and then Mike Johnson will then become president because he's Speaker of the House." That's not how the line of succession works. If you fully had Joe Biden resigning completely out of the White House, the next one in line would be Kamala Harris. And before the election, we would have our first black woman, any color, as president. Now. It's not going to go to Mike Johnson. No, it's not going to happen. People are losing their minds over this. Donald Trump is losing his mind over this. Polls have just come out for the first time in over a month that has Trump not leading. That Kamala Harris is leading in various polls, CBS polls. Now, me personally, I don't really go with polls anyway, especially in July. I think what matters is when you go in November. But I feel, people who wants to have that feeling of motivation and momentum and just get their amp up. I can understand that. I totally respect that. But a poll in July does not make what November is. Anything can happen between now and November. Just think what happened to Trump. I mean, he survived an assassination attempt. Being called anointed by God. That God saved him. So he's the anointed one. He's the chosen one. God chose him. He saved him. God saved Trump. Sure, a fireman who was actually a fucking hero, who was protecting his family on the stands, he gets killed, but God saved Trump. Oh. But your anointed holy warrior against the evils of wokeness is not leading in the polls, and furthermore, that your courageous, defiant fight is backing away from a debate with Kamala Harris. He doesn't want to do it on ABC. He wants to do it on Fox. If he can't do it on Fox, he doesn't want to do it at all. Remind me again, for those who said that Kamala Harris is such a weak candidate that Trump would just beat her in a landslide, and he's acting like a pathetic, scared child. I don't want to do it. No, she can't be doing it. And the sad part is, you know what happened? You know what happened? And I hate to be the one to bring it up because, again, at the start of this video, since I had to do like 3 parts of this, the start of this video, I expressed my actual emotional honesty upon the prospects of Joe Biden stepping down, and that even though it was the right thing to do, it's still a pretty shitty thing to feel like what you have to do to somebody, or what someone feels like they need to do for themselves, because he was too old. Donald Trump is now the oldest person in this election. It's no longer Biden in his decline that is center stage that everyone can point and laugh at, including Trump. The man in decline who was whispering in the wind, mumbling, looking off, spacing out, however you were all gleefully talking about while you insulted the old man. He's gone now. And what you have left is now the lens of a 59-year-old woman. Pretty energetic. Plenty of mental, emotional, physical energy in the tank for her. And then you have Donald Trump, 78 years old. The same age as Joe Biden was in 2020, where many of us agree that he was too old in 2020 to run for election. And I had this conversation earlier today, going this back and forth of how people were playing semantic games about, you know what, well Biden was too old, but Trump is not too old. And there's like some Fox host that says, don't just say Trump is too old. Don't say that. So do the math. If Biden was too old in 2020, when he was 78, to run and to be president of the United States, then Trump now, at 78, is too old. And watching people doing the mental gymnastics to try to get around that reality, numerical age realities, is just someone stunning to behold, especially people who are conscientious and thoughtful. They still have to try to Rubik's Cube their way to allow this 70-year-old man. It's totally fine for him, but the other guy, he's too old. But now he is the old man compared to Kamala Harris. I wasn't going to go after Trump's age. I only mentioned it in comparison to when people think that Biden is too old, but then look at Trump, who, at even 4 years younger, is still no different. He's also in cognitive decline. In fact, he is more robust about it. I think the thing is, maybe people take Trump and his decline and just say that because he's so energetic about it, that kind of masks his decline. I liken the two, and I've said this in the last 2 videos. Biden's decline is that he's whispering in the wind. Trump's decline is he's yelling at a cloud. Loud. He's full of energy while he's yelling at that cloud. Or he talks about the late great Hannibal Lecter. Find out what Anthony Hopkins is horrified that Trump keeps bringing up Hannibal Lecter. And the boat, the beautiful battery, goes underwater, and there's sharks. Don't get the sharks. Don't get beaten by sharks. You see, But the thing is that we are so partisan in our ways, in our methodologies, and so forth. And it becomes knowledgeable and noticeable that Democrats, when they think something is happening that is going against their way, or it might make them look bad, they overcorrect. Now, Joe Biden getting out of the race was the right thing to do. However, that the pressure campaign to do it, that is overcorrection. It is the same overcorrection they did when they got Al Franken out of the Senate for his inappropriate bullshit that he was doing. But it was the Democrats that pushed him. Bob Menendez gets convicted of his crimes, and he will resign. When Bob Menendez was being indicted, the loudest calls for him to be removed was from Democrats, not Republicans. We have our party has essentially the political form of quality control, while the Republicans will circle the wagons lockstep and protect their nominee, who is a 34-count felon who has accusations of various inappropriate contact, a judgment liable of sexual misconduct and assault, not to mention the 2 times that Katie brought up what he did to her when she was 12. We won't go into that. It's always amazing to me how the media doesn't go into that. But circle wagons for Trump. Prop him up. Last thing I'll say, other than it is amazing how the response from right-wing talking heads and politicians are saying about this whole situation with Harris and Biden and so forth. The last thing I'll say is how horrible it is getting from people who are just bringing out the misogyny and the racism. J.D. Vance says that she doesn't have a child. She obviously is a crazy cat lady. Laura Loomer said worse. They're bringing up her sexual history, her relationship with someone who was married. Let's forget the fact that that marriage was a strain for the 10 years while this relationship was going on. Or how she slept her way to the top, slept her way to the positions that she got in the DA's department, for which the person would say, oh yeah, I helped her out. Yeah, but I also helped out Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein and Gavin Newsom, because he's not really associating his relationship with her as anything improper. But Laura Loomer said that one of the reasons why Kamala Harris does not have children because of her sexual history is that she's had too many abortions and that she's incapable of having children. These are the type of people that are so supporting of Donald Trump, the one that God saved. You want to stand among them to vote for Trump? Be conscious of the people that surround you. And like, those very fine people at the Unite the Right who, had their own legit reason of being supportive for the concept of like Confederate statues and so forth. And don't notice the Klansman right over there or the neo-Nazi over there. Kind of have your earbuds on and listen to your iPod while people are doing blood and sand, and you will not replace us walking by in their in their Trump uniforms, which are all golf clothes. These are all the people that are around you. This is why people assume you're like that. Because of the company you keep in your policies, your politics. But what horrible bullshit to lay on her simply because she is a black woman. Or some people are not even saying that she's a black woman, that she's like Indian or something. A woman of color. That evidently, because she's a woman, it's okay to assume her sexual proclivities and her history. That's great. Alright. So, whether this will end up that way or not, we'll go into the Democratic National Convention, where it will be Kamala Harris will be on top of the ticket, unless something major happens between now and then. It looks like that she has the delegates she needs already. That there is not going to be this major, open up scenario here, where people get to shout out their own names and delegates get to put whatever they want to do. It looks like more people are supporting and endorsing Kamala Harris. There are more people that are endorsing her who are delegates that are coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to go all in. The last thing I said there was the last thing. This is the last thing. I swear. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this really funny one, which is what's been going on today. During the Republican National Convention, Nikki Haley decided to kiss the ring and kiss the ass of Donald Trump to do her speech for Donald Trump. And she encouraged those of her delegates to vote for Donald Trump, and she released her delegates into the wild. Fly, fly, fly. And then a group of her delegates, calling themselves Haley Voters for Harris, cropped up. To which she sent a cease and desist. You're not supposed to support her. You're supposed to support Donald Trump. Now, we heard what Nikki Haley was saying about Donald Trump on the campaign trail. We understand that even the most even the most accurate thing that she was saying about Donald Trump when she was running for president, that was accurate, but that was also politics, because here she is, no matter how much of a danger she is, that he is to this country, according to her, she's still going to support. She did not understand, apparently, that when people were voting for her, they were voting for her because they did not want to vote for Trump. So, with her no longer there, they who did not want to vote for Trump to begin with are not voting for Trump. So a group of them is making it pretty public that they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. And when she sent the cease and desist order to them, they said, no, you can't stop us. We will vote who they like, and they're not voting for Trump. I think that's amazing. And that might be actually something that people need to remember. Something that I've said multiple times, but it bears repeating again, and I will leave you with this. Last time I'm saying that, I promise, I swear. In 2020, Donald Trump lost the election. He did not lose it because people wanted to vote for Joe Biden. He lost it by millions of people who did not want to vote for Donald Trump. And if Nikki Haley's voters are any indication of the temperament of others, especially in the Republican Party, who was voting for other people other than Trump, besides for like Ramaswamy's people maybe, they still don't want to vote for Donald Trump. And they will vote for Kamala Harris or anyone else because they do not want Trump back in. Because Trump has not changed in 4 years since whining about the election got stolen. It got stolen. Go January 6th. Fight like hell for your democracy, because you're not going to have a country left if you don't fight. they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. They're not going to listen to her telling them to vote for Donald Trump. And this is any indication of them going to Kamala Harris, it is a reminder to you that more people dislike and do not want Donald Trump to be president than you realize. Just because Joe Biden doesn't fill a room doesn't mean there are millions of people that are never going to vote for Trump. Same goes with Harris. She has a lot of flaws in her. Again, another one of these people that I wouldn't be the number one idea for me to vote for. But nonetheless, more people hate Trump than they like him. Millions of people did not vote for Trump in 2020, and Joe Biden was elected. And if things go the way it continues to go for Kamala Harris, and she may not be the weak candidate that people think she is. Ranter rants, because the urge to rant is always rising, and I will see you the next time some atrocity of our political system happens.